Alright, so you need to generate a random number from a triangular distribution, and this is how we go about it. So a triangular distribution is one that has a minimum value, a most likely value, and a maximum value. Minimum A, most likely C, maximum B. Right, so this is our formula at the top. A, minimum, plus B minus A times, so it's B minus A multiplied by, and we have an if function. So it's if, open bracket, so we're going to need a random number, and if the random number is less than or equal to standardized C, we're going to have a formula for that as well here. Alright, then, comma, we take the square root of standardized C multiplied by the random number. Otherwise, we take the value of 1 minus the square root of, and it's going to be 1 minus the standardized C value multiplied by 1 minus the random number. We take the square root of all of that. Alright, so let's put the formula together. So here I have some values to work with. So I have a minimum value of 100. Alright, let's use bigger numbers. So I'm going to use 1,000. I'll just format these differently. Alright, so minimum 1,000. Most likely value, let's say 5,800. And the maximum is 12,000. So I'm using these numbers. So let's clear these because I'm going to do them from scratch. Alright, so we need the range. The range, B minus A is actually the range. Alright, so let me just rename these cells. So the minimum, which is B7, if you notice, top left, B7 is a name box. So I'm going to highlight the B7 and I'm going to just call it A. Most likely, that's B8. I'm going to rename that to C. I will try again. So C. Alright, it's not taking C. So let's call it most likely. And let's see if we take B for this one. Alright, so I've renamed them. So this is A. This is called most likely, and this is now called B, as I see in the name box at the top left. Alright, so for the range, I'm going to call that range. And it's just equal to B minus A. So if you notice in the cell, it says equal B minus A. Right, so 12,000 minus 1,000, the range is 11,000. Alright, next we want the standardized C. Alright, so for this one, I'm going to call it STD underscore C, standardized C. Alright, and the formula says the standardized C is equal to, open brackets, so it's going to be C. Alright, sorry, I forgot, we need to put an equal sign, so it's equal, open brackets, so it's C, most likely, minus A, close brackets, divided by, open brackets, B minus A, which is the range. Close bracket. Right, so it's C minus A in brackets, divided by B minus A in brackets. So we enter. So that's our standardized C. Alright, and we can leave all decimals showing, or we could reduce the number of decimals. Alright, but I'm going to leave it as is. Alright, next. Random number. We need a random number. So this one is just a regular random number. I'm going to call this one Rn, capital R, capital N. And it's just equal RAND, open bracket, close bracket. Alright, so it's just a regular random number. And now, this is the formula to generate the random number from the triangular distribution. So we're going to be getting a random number that falls between 1,000 and 12,000 and has a most likely outcome of 5,800. Right? So that's the type of random number that will be generated. So here's our formula at the top, so we're just going to follow the formula. So it's equal A plus B minus A is a range, so I can just put range. Or I could put open bracket B minus A times, then if function, open brackets. So if the random number Rn is less than or equal to the standardized C, comma, for then. So if that is the case, then take the square root, SQRT for square root function, open brackets. It's going to be the standardized C multiplied by the random number. Otherwise, so comma again. So we're just following the formula at the top. So there's 1 minus square root. So 1 minus SQRT for square root, open brackets. And we need another bracket. And it's 1 minus standardized C, close bracket, multiplied by, open bracket, 1 minus the random number. And 3 brackets to close it off. If you notice, black bracket at the end matches with the black bracket at the start. So that's our formula. Enter. And as noted, we get a random number that falls between 1,000 and 12,000. And the most likely outcome is 5,800. So if I press F9, it's going to generate another one. Function F9. Right? Function F9 to see another one. So it will always generate a random number that falls in between that range. And format it just to show like here. Alright, so that's basically it. If I want some decimals, I can show decimals if I want. But this is a random number. So once you have a triangle distribution and you want a random number that falls in between a minimum and a maximum, where there's also a most likely outcome, it's called a triangular distribution. And this formula that we have here, let me change the cell color to, let's use purple. So this formula here gives you a random number that comes from a triangular distribution. All right, all the best. Take care.